Hello, and welcome to the Trophy Trust, a weekly podcast for PlayStation trophy hunters. I'm one of your hosts this evening, Dedazil, and joining me is Punish.
Hey guys, how are we doing?
And making his long-awaited triumphant return to the podcast, we have the Vetronic.
Hello.
Hey guys, hope you're all in pleasant moods this evening. I hope the weekend is treating you well. Vec, it's good to have you back, like fully back. Restore to your full power on the Discord.
I am completely 100% here, present. I'm glad to be here after the shitstorm that happened this past month and a half.
For those who have not been too up to date with things that have been going on, would you care to just take a moment to explain why you've been in and out of contact with us?
So, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if anyone but I live in Puerto Rico, and recently we just got hit by one of the massive storms in recorded history, Hurricane Maria, which was a Category 5, which basically not only knocked out our power, it knocked out our communication systems for like a month and a half. And while I could, prance around and look at the wasteland that was previously my hometown, at least I could, not even have a call until like week 3, which I contacted you guys. It was really horrible, but I'm glad to be back, honestly.
Yeah, we're glad you're safe as well.
Yeah, we are.
I just couldn't imagine being off the grid like that. I mean, here in UK, at least in the part of where I live, in Greater London, we don't really have anything like that. We have bad storms, but nothing pales in comparison to some of the more tropical storms that are out in different parts of the world. So I couldn't even imagine being off the grid like that. I get frustrated when my Wi-Fi goes down for half an hour, but I creature comforts,
At first, it was super frustrating. Then you realize it was more like a forced vacation after working so long on the internet. And for a while, I thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. And then I realized it was actually quite nice. I was a bit more productive than I used to. I feel bad for myself right now, but yeah, I felt productive. But it was amazing. But even though the things that happened were not as a great, being able to take a small break, even though it was kind of forced, it was not the best thing ever. And yeah, like you described it, it's not. It's like imagine 30 minutes without internet. Now imagine a whole month and a half without internet.
That's crazy. Well, anyway, it's good to have you back. Punish, been up to anything interesting before we dive into the main events?
No, not really. For most of you guys see me on Discord, I've been working a ton of hours, usually 14 to 16 a day. But with my gaming, it's kind of slowed down. I haven't really touched my PS4, but luckily, with having the Vita, I'm able to take it to work with me. So I've been primarily grinding away on Persona 4 and hoping to get the platinum here within probably the next week.
Well, I tell you what, that's a good jumping off point for our first segment then, what we've been playing. So we're going to go through what we've been playing in the last week since our previous episode. So Punish, why don't you just take it from there and lead us?
All right, yeah. Like I said previously, I've been playing a lot of Persona 4 Golden. I'm on the New Game Plus right now, which means I've already beaten it once. I'm just going through and pretty much cleaning up. And the only thing I really have to do is I have to complete the Persona Compendium, which is fusing and acquiring all the Personas. And then I have to get the Hardcore Rosette Fan trophy, which is getting Rise to say all of her lines while you're in and out of dungeons.
Okay. I don't really have any experience with the Persona games, unfortunately, so I can't really gauge the difficulty of or what that feat really entails. I mean, Vec, do you play the Persona games at all?
Yes, I've played all the games right now. I've been from 1 to 5, including the spin-offs. I haven't played the dancing game, of course, but I personally love the Persona games. I don't know how you're going to do Hardcore Reset Fan, because, that trophy is actually pretty fucking hard. But I personally love Persona games, and I was really excited. It was the first game I've actually pre-ordered with my own personal money was actually Persona 5, and honestly, it was a really, really great experience altogether.
Okay. Punish, anything else you've been playing other than Persona? You're saying that you've only had your access to your Vita really recently.
Well,
Got any other games on
yeah,
it?
yeah. I'm playing Assassin's Creed Origins too.
Oh, okay.
Yep, amazing game. I absolutely love it. I'm really looking forward to being able to put more time into it because I mean I was a huge fan of Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2, and just for me, I believe that they kind of went back down to their roots, and they have created an awesome, awesome game.
Huh. I myself have said before in previous episodes, I've not really been interested in Assassin's Creed, not really been on my radar, but I've seen a lot of screenshots, as you do with any big game, on social media, on Twitter especially. And to be honest, it's really piqued my interest. Like, I don't really know anything about Assassin's Creed. My girlfriend's a massive fan of Assassin's Creed. She's played all the games. I've only been an observer when I've been in the room while she's been playing it. I have nothing against the games. I've just never really draw me in. But this one really does seem to be interesting me. So, as I said, my girlfriend's a big fan, so she's definitely going to have this game at some point. And I'm actually think I'm going to play it. I think I'm actually going to give it a go. And I've heard nothing but good things about it. Really, it seems that the year off has done them wonders in terms of rejuvenating the series. Yeah, would you say that's a accurate statement?
Yeah, that's a definitely accurate summary. I mean, they're unfortunately the developers got into the habit of recycle and reset. It was pretty much giving us the same thing over and over and over again, except just into a different environment. But this time around, it really looks like they put a lot of thought into the story. They put a lot of thought into the combat, side missions. I mean, pretty much everything. I mean, the visuals alone will draw you into the game. So I'm definitely glad to hear that it's piqued your interest. I think you'll really like it if you decide to play it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what it can do on PS4 Pro as well on a 4K TV. Because the game looks
First,
fantastic from what I've seen of like compressed screenshots on Twitter. So to see it on a big screen, running on Pro, a little more enhanced, I can't wait to see what it can offer visually.
personally, I want to play the Origins, but I'm gonna wait for a price drop. I love the Assassin's Creed series, and I'm currently at a break with Assassin's Creed 4, and I want to continue off, but while I continue collecting the final games I want to do before I marathon it, because I hate myself and I want to marathon all of the games at once, back to back to back to back,
Oh, I don't
and
think I could do that. That would
I
no,
couldn't do
that would
that.
burn
yeah,
me out.
it's a complete burnout. But it gives you a bit of perspective in the design aspect when you can see what has changed, what hasn't has changed, and you can feel if it's samey or not. And it's a direct comparison, and it's very direct, which is why I do such a thing.
So, for someone like me who's never really picked up a game, only observed Assassin's Creed, would you say I really need to know much about the story going in? Because I know the bare bones of the story. I know a little bit about the Templars, about the Assassins, about a little bit about Desmond. This is only through basically my girlfriend playing and me talking to her about it. But would I need a knowledge to really enjoy Origins?
No, no, I don't believe so. I mean, that's the great thing about this title. It's Assassin's Creed's Origins. It's a story within itself. I mean, there's no mention of the Assassins or the Templars going into the game.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it would be a good foothold for you to start on, if that's the best way to put it.
Okay, excellent. That's good to know. I will definitely play it. Am interested, as I said. Okay. Anyway, so Punish, is that pretty much everything you've been playing for this week so
Yep,
far?
yep, yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right then. So Vec, you're up next. What have you been up to?
I've been playing 3 games actually. I've been playing Jack and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy for the PlayStation 4,
Ah,
which yeah, I got it for $15. I gave in. My sister wanted to play it, so I got it for her, and then I decided, oh, why not replay it again? And actually, as much as I hate to say it, it's not worth the $15, as
hmm.
we previously stated, because it's as I thought it was like an HD remaster, like the PS3.
No.
No, it's actually an emulated version of the PlayStation 2,
Yeah,
which disappointed me, to be honest.
absolutely. It's funny that that's one of the games you've been playing recently because that was actually going to be one of the games I was going to play at start this week. Um, I acquired the code because I pre-ordered the Lost Legacy, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. I've had it sitting on my main menu since I've had Uncharted: The Lost Legacy a couple of months ago, or whenever it was exactly. Um, yeah, and I was aware that it's a PS2 version, but I was not aware of how different in terms of quality it is between the emulated PS2 version and the HD version from PS3 and even Vita, because I platinumed Jack 1 on PS Vita, platinumed it on PS3, and I thought, well, I'm going to try it again and put a little bit of research into it, as I always do when I go for games, just about to play games, or look up a trophy list, or just try and get a bit of background information on the game. If there's any glitches I need to avoid, anything I need to keep in the back of my mind. As I've said before in previous episodes, I read the trophy list and keep it in the back of my mind, so that way, when situations arise, I know what to do in the game for trophies or for certain parts of the game. Anyway, went on forums, had a look through, and people were just complaining about basically bad quality, bad camera. It's PS2 emulator, which, as you said, disappointed people. Also glitchy. Some people experience crashes. They say it's been patched since, but there's still crashes, trophy glitches, and basically just me reading all this completely put me off playing the game at all. So I just deleted it. I just think I'm not going to put myself through a game that's going to be unenjoyable to play. And I actually watched a comparison video between the HD collection on PS3 and the PS2/PS4 emulated game. And yeah, it is the difference in like textures and clarity of the image it's like night and day, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of really did put me off, so I deleted it. I got it for free anyway, so it's no loss. But yeah, definitely not worth the sort of $15, £15, that sort of 15 price point, whatever your currency is. Yeah, no,
No,
there is better PS2 emulated games on the store for you to play than that.
yeah. You want a better explanation to see how bad the quality is? Take a look at the save icons when you load it, when you save the game manually. Look at the icon, and you'll see how dated and pixelated the icons individually are, and compare it to the PS3. It's like night and day. It's like just one image replicated, and it's actually amazingly how bad the port is. But then again, it's a PS2 emulation, so I'll give it a pass. But honestly, I won't recommend it for like $15.
I wouldn't say it's a bad port in like just cut and dry like that. I just say it's a very old game, and it hasn't got the touch ups that the HD version has. And
Yeah.
in terms of stability, it doesn't seem to have been done too well. But I don't really know anything about game developing, so I can't really pass a comment on that. But just reading from user feedback alone on forums just put me off of it. So yeah, I definitely don't want to play it, basically. And besides, I've platinumed it twice before. I've had my feel. And thinking back, and I've said on episodes before about when we spoke of Jak and Daxter, I just remember really frustrating parts of it in the HD collection, which has been touched up and the controls made a little better. So I imagine parts in the PS2 version being quite, well, even more frustrating because of the camera and the clunky controls. But yeah, not for me. Anything else you've been playing?
Yes, I've been playing Prototype for the PlayStation 3.
Ooh,
Yeah, going back to older games really makes
definitely.
you feel that the evolution of gaming has really made older games very dated. It makes me appreciate more the aesthetic and more the mechanics they introduce. And with it, I'm also playing GTA 5, which I will digress more later. But I gotta say, driving a helicopter or a tank in New York City is satisfying. What isn't is the controls. Man, I never thought I would go back to a time where I have to hold X to drive. It's like no, no, no. And then I go back to a game which I've played, which is GTA 5, and I hold like the R3 button for driving, and it's so much comfortable. And I say that's an amazing controller scheme, which is my main reason why I'm playing both of these games back to back, and also Prototype seems like an interesting plot line. Then again, it's much more edgy and confusing than I thought it would be.
Well, just going on what you were saying about going back and playing older games, and you can feel their age. Um, it's just a sort of testament to how quickly the industry moves, and also what you were saying about the control scheme for GTA and just control schemes in general. How not only are we talking about like games graphically, mechanics, technology wise, but also just like control schemes have just become the standard control scheme for like driving now in pretty much every game is the triggers and the same for like shooting games, the triggers and grenades and the shoulder buttons. You know, like developers have sort of worked out now like much better control schemes to map out on controllers, as well as making the games look better, run better, have really interesting mechanics. And yeah, it just moving forward just all the time. You couldn't even go back like a game from like a year or as little as a year or two ago, and it will feel dated. Not every game, some games better than others, but you know, it's like when I went back and played the Uncharted collection on PS4. It's those games aren't that old, really, but the sort of cover base feels a little kind of slower and a little clunkier compared to like maybe like four or the Lost Legacy. It's just everything moves so quickly in the industry.
I like your analogy, but I like it as emphasis on the first game of an Uncharted series because looking back, I will never, never, ever use my controller to aim a grenade again.
Yeah, they learn. Yeah, I suppose like talking about developers learning about control schemes, getting rid of forced motion controls is definitely something a lot of developers learned early last generation because they got rid of those. Didn't they get rid of the motion aiming for grenades in the second game?
Yes, they did, but in the first game they didn't until the HD port for the collection,
Mm.
which they made the control scheme all from the third game,
Yes.
which is amazing. I
Sure.
love the difference.
I
And
wish they. I wish they just on a tangent, really quick about Uncharted. I really wish they didn't get rid of the grenade throwback mechanic from 3 when they made 4. It was absent from 4. You'd be able to chuck grenades back at enemies in 3 was introduced. I thought that was really, really good because grenades in those games are a pest. They're really annoying because you just get them all the time. And wherever you are on cover, you can be really far back in a battlefield and the enemies will just launch them and they will arc completely over and land perfectly in front of you. And if you're on Crusher and kill you basically instantly. But being able to throw grenades back introduced in the third game was a nice way of counteracting those like uh, cheap kills. I'd call it really, but yeah,
yeah,
I digress.
I agree. I actually do like the implementation of the throwback grenade because in the first two games it forced you out of cover, and
Yeah,
on the harder difficulties that's completely and utterly unfair. But going back to Prototype, I like the concept of the story. I like how it's like a virus in New York City being spread, and you're like patient zero, and you have these amazing, ridiculous powers and all that kind of stuff. And as much as I love the aesthetic and I love the interesting story is trying to tell. I feel for a game like that, it should not have the problems it does. For example, in some cutscenes, they explain motivations, but the characters don't feel any sort of emotion, and you can see them just completely and blatantly staring at each other, telling each other, "Oh, do this, do that, do these, do this." Like a small transition between the open world and the mission, and fails to capture any sort of resemblance of human characteristics. And coming from a game made by Activision, yeah, I can kind of see why.
I played the. I've not played Prototype, the first one, but I have played the second one twice on PS3 and on PS4 when they sort of air quotations remastered it for PS4. I didn't play the first one because I just looked it up and I just saw it was quite difficult like to platinum it and it just put me off. And the second one was much easier and more casual. And so I can't comment on the first game, but from the second game, it feels like they're attempt at Infamous, and I mean that in a good way. The game's not like Game of the Year material. It's just it's just a mayhem simulator, basically. Just
Hmm.
throwing people around, chucking tanks, throwing cars, blowing shit up. The second game, though, in regards to like characters, it's the same in the second game. Everyone's pretty flat, and
Oh, really?
motivations. It,
I was.
the I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's the character's more motivated because it's not spoilers because it's pretty much explained in the intro. It's just the motivation is the guy's daughter. Um, I can't actually remember. I've played it twice, and the story has barely even stuck with me. It's something about
Yes.
he's because in the second game, the guy from the first game is the antagonist now because he's the patient zero. He's the one that's been spreading the virus around. So
Yeah.
the virus has killed like billions of people, and the guy's wife and daughter, I think, are something like they were killed in it or something like that. It's like I said, it's explained pretty much from the off. It's not a very deep story. It's just a mayhem simulator, but it's definitely worth picking up. Prototype 2. I had a lot of fun with it. You are way OP in that game, way overpowered.
No.
There's no challenge by the end. Basically, very easy to platinum and really fun as well. If you don't mind like the really hammy voice acting and like the practically really shallow motivation. But like I said, it's not Game of the Year material. It's just a laugh. And if you ever see it for cheap on PSN on PS4, I'd say give it a go because I think you might enjoy it more than the first one, based on what I've read of
Wait,
it.
overpowered in the second game. I can barely even fight in a boss fight in the first game because every single upgrade is more like a tally point, and it's freaking. I hate it. I hate the upgrade system. I hate most of the combat, but I do like what it's trying to tell. But that's about it. I'm just gonna leave it like that. And the last game I played was GTA 5.
Okay.
I beat it recently, and I
PS3
gotta
or
say
PS4 version?
PS3
Okay.
because, and then I realized myself, yeah, I'm gonna 100% this game. I'm gonna platinum this game, and more on that later. But yeah, but playing back to get back, I basically explained the controls, the graphics, and how the industry has evolved basically for quickly, which is surprising. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay. All right, then I guess it leaves me. I'm gonna get through it pretty quickly because I've got 4 games to talk about, but 2 of them are one game, but on 2 different platforms. So actually, firstly, I will actually no, it's 5 games, 4 technically. Anyway, Wolfenstein 2,
Oh,
I've played. I really enjoyed it, but I think we discussed previously. I'm not sure if we did, but the difficulty trophy completely put me off, or even destroyed any hope of me platinuming this game. So I just played it through for fun. I really enjoyed the first game. Second game was good, but I just felt it was more of the same. Really, not in a bad way. It just didn't feel as impactful as the first game. It didn't feel as fresh, but I really like the characters, really like the cutscenes. The gameplay was good. Absolutely solid first person shooting gameplay. The dual wielding weapons, stealth sections were really satisfying. Um, I haven't really much to say about it to be honest because I just stuck to the main story rather than like do any of the side missions or any of the districts because from your main kind of like hub in the when you're outside of main missions, similar to the first game, when you're in your kind of HQ, you can choose to do side missions. In this game, it's broken into districts, so you can go and fly off to a certain part of America and do like sneaking sections and search for like high-ranking Nazi commanders and get rewards and whatnot. I didn't really go too much into that. I played a little bit off of it. I just mainly stuck to the story, and I blasted through it, had fun, and that was it. Really, I don't really have much more to say about it. I like it. I'd recommend it.
yes.
But for trophy hunters, it's like basically 10 out of 10 difficulty trying to platinum because if you haven't heard by now, the highest difficulty trophy is doing the game on the highest difficulty, which is I Am Death Incarnate. So the difficulty is already at maximum. You then have to. It's permadeath mode, so if you die, you go back to the beginning. There's no saves and there's no checkpoints, so it's like ridiculous. So you could be like final boss, get killed, back to the beginning again. Because you can't. You can suspend your system, I guess, but if you're on PS4 or whatnot. But yeah, no way. I have no intention of even attempting that because I started the game up on I Am Death Incarnate just on the sort of non-permadeath mode, the sort of standard way of playing it, and it was just handing my ass to me. I had to turn the difficulty down. It was just killing me over and over and over again. So yeah, no luck with that. So I just played it for fun and moved on. Next game. Oh, sorry, was you going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw that trophy, and everyone's actually trying to petition so that Machine Gun Games um, rework that trophy because you know I understand being the game on the highest difficulty. I understand not having checkpoints or something of the like, but permadeath. That's
It's
kind of really dumb.
There are some enemies in the game, the super soldats, if I pronounce that right. They kill you in basically one hit on I Am Death Incarnate. They have like laser cannons. Some of them have like huge machine turrets that they carry around. Some of them have like flamethrowers that shoot fireballs, and you're dead in basically one hit. And yeah, that's why I had to turn the game down. But trying to do that on permadeath mode, it's crazy. That's not fun. That's just torturous. That's not how it. I can't even really put into words how like disappointed I am because I platinumed the New Order and the Old Blood and really enjoyed it. They were hard. They were not easy. They were quite tricky, and I enjoyed the challenge. But there's a difference between there's a fine line between challenge and just like I said, torture. Basically, I understand there's like hard games out there like Dark Souls and such, and I'm not going to make that tired like comparison of all the Dark Souls of like first person shooters or whatever. But yeah, it's not for me. That's why I don't play games like Dark Souls and all that. If things are just gonna piss me off, like really drive me to the edge, I've learned the hard way that playing games like that is just not for me. I just don't have the patience for it. Anyway, moving on to something a little more casual,
Yeah.
and I needed something more casual after that. Is I picked up Telltale Guardians of the Galaxy. I needed something light, not so heavy and sort of grim to play to cleanse my palate. Really enjoyed it. It's absolutely solid Telltale game, and I'm really surprised at how well it runs and how good it looks. It's probably the best looking, best running Telltale game. And I know that's a weird thing to say, best running game, but if, like me, you've had experience with previous Telltale games, they're kind of infamous for not running too well, being kind of
Frame rate dips.
being kind of like janky, a little bit kind of buggy, a lot of visual glitches going on. Even in one of their like
Mhm.
latest ones, like the first season of Telltale Batman, it had visual glitches in the PS3 version. For me, I played it on both PS3 and PS4. PS3 had a game breaker glitch in it. I couldn't I couldn't finish the episode until they patched it. So yeah, they're known. It's because they put out their games on so many platforms. It kind of stretches it thin in terms of optimization. But this one, I was really pleasantly surprised at how quick the loading times were. I didn't really notice any problems. My only criticism is maybe some of the animations were a bit stiff, but that's barely anything to complain about. It was good voice acting. It was funny. It kind of draws from a mixture of both the MCU, Marvel movie cinematic universe, a version of Guardians of the Galaxy, but it also draws from the comic as well. So it's kind of in the middle of the two. The style is recognizable of MCU, but it also draws some imagery and backstory from the comics as well. I really recommend it. I got it in a sale for under £10 in a double discount PSN PlayStation Plus sale. I'm not sure when that sale runs to. This is for EU, for European players.
I
I
think Punish
I
wants to
recommend
say
it.
I think Punish wants to say something.
Oh
Yeah.
no, sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just jump in whenever.
Okay. I saw that the I like the game. I like seeing the Guardians of the Galaxy. I kind of saw it flow down under my radar. Um, to be honest, is it better, or do you think it's better than previous Telltale games have you seen? Or
In terms of story, I'd say it's standard. I think I would say Tales from the Borderlands had a more unique story, but again, I guess that's based on the world it's based in.
Mhm.
But I really did like it. I'm a fan of the Marvel movies. I'm not really too big into the comic books, but I certainly appreciate the Marvel movies, and they've done a really good job of it. The only downside is it kind of took a lot of stuff from the movie and kind of reworked it rather than it being completely original. There's a character that appears in the second Guardians movie that's in this, which could have literally been anyone else. They didn't even have to be the character that appears in the second movie. It could have been just a brand new original character, and it would have made any difference to the story. I think they just sort of shoehorned that person in because they're also in the movie to make that connection. Because the final episode only came out this week, and the first episode launched, I think, around the time Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was out in the cinemas. So it's been running for a while, and it's only just finished now. It draws a lot of its story from the first Guardians film, mixed in a little bit of the second, and then some other stuff from, I guess, from the comics. But still, I recommend it. I had never buy the Telltale Games episode at a time. I always wait for the season pass to go down in a sale, because they always do. When the final episode's out or just about to come out, you'll always find a season pass in the sale for like under 15, around the 10 mark. It always seems to be the way. And then after that, a couple of months down the line, they always seem to pop up in sales. The Telltale season passes, always. So
for good pricing too. Sometimes.
yeah, absolutely.
I always wait for the sales to go on before I buy them. I never buy them at full price.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good way to get a pretty straightforward game. I find the games are very casual. I wouldn't really even class them as sort of like your standard kind of video game. They're just an interactive experience. Not that that's a bad way, or not that I'm like having a go at Telltale. I really like Telltale games. I always play them in between the big games as a kind of a chill out game.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I like them, because they're always kind of like they're refreshing to play between the big games. Next game I played counts as 2 platinums, but it's I finally gave in, and don't know, should I be ashamed? We're playing My Name Is Mayo. It finally appeared on the EU PSN store. I didn't even know about it. I was just browsing the other day under the news section, and I saw it, and I was like, it's 99 pence. That's I have to try it for that price. It's like not even there's no question about it. And you know what? I actually enjoyed it, not because of like the easy platinum, which goes without saying, but it's just such a dumb little game, and I like the way you unlock facts and you put these silly outfits on this silly jar of mayo. I just sat there just clicking it. It did make my thumb ache after a while, because you need to click it like 10,000 times by the end of the game to get the platinum trophy. But yeah, it's easy. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't buy it for the easy platinum. It is what it is, and it's 99 pence for both the PS4 and PS3 bundle, like cross buy, and it has a separate trophy list for each. So it's 2 platinum trophies for 99p. So if you want to bolster your numbers by 2 easy platinums, then go for it. You know, I can't say anything about it. I've done it. It was dumb. I actually got both of them on my Vita, so to speak. I played the Vita version, and then about an hour later, I booted up the PS4 version, but just did it on remote play because I wanted to. I'm not going to sit there literally watching the screen tapping away. I just put a movie on. I was watching some like Netflix, and I was just clicking it idly. I was browsing on my iPad. So, yeah,
Easy peasy.
yep, absolutely. And finally, playing I've platinum that I got about an hour ago, actually. A game called Chroma Gun. It is
I saw you.
basically. Sorry.
I saw you posting a picture out lately.
Yeah,
On Twitter.
it's basically Portal. There's no way around it. It even references Portal in the game. You're in a lab, you're in test chambers. Everything's white panels, white tiles. You have this kind of like white gizmo gadget-looking gun. Except in this game, it fires colored paint. It's not portals; it's paint, and it's basically color-based puzzles. And you have these droids, these like floating kind of like they look kind of like old World War II like sea mines, like the round with spikes coming out of them. And yeah, you just kind of like have to activate panels on the floor to open doors and progress out of the chamber. It is literally Portal, but minus the portals. It's on sale for like 7-ish, around that price. Picked it up, really easy platinum, and it's actually a really good puzzle game as well. I recommend it. I definitely recommend it. It's not as witty or as kind of clever as Portal, but it's definitely simpler than Portal in terms of solving the puzzles. I didn't need to. You don't need to look at any guides or anything. Very low failure rate. You can die in the game like you can in Portal, but you just come back at the beginning of the chamber. I'd definitely give it a go. If you see it cheap, definitely give it a go. The platinum is very easy. It's like 2 out of 10. There's only like 3 missable trophies, but there's chapter select, so it's very easy. And that's it for me for games I've been playing this week. So if that's it from all of us, I think we can move on to our next section. We're going to discuss some news now. Vec, would you like to lead on with the news section?
Don't mind if I do.
Yeah, what's been happening?
Okay, so first of all, Electronic Arts, or better known as EA, has announced that it will acquire the Titanfall maker Respawn Interactive, Entertainment, for like $315 million, with a possible of $140 million additionally, costing around like 400 I can do math, $455 million. And it basically means that post the announcement of shutting down Visceral Interactive, they acquire Respawn. What do you guys think?
Oof. Well, Punish, you go first if you like.
Okay, I'm going to try to be as neutral as possible, but I do not like EA. I've never liked them as a company. I don't like a lot of their video games.
And this is you being neutral, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I could be a lot worse right now. I'm just trying to tone it down a little bit. But I've seen EA over the past 10 years acquire other video game developers and just completely trash them. And they're able to do it because they have infinite amount of resources, so to speak. And it's something I really, really don't like. Especially with them closing down Visceral and then turning right around saying, "Nope, we're going to pick up this franchise now."
It's been a strange couple of weeks for like their PR, because firstly, negative PR from shutting down Visceral, canning their Star Wars game, and basically just discarding them after buying them a few years ago, and then like a week, not even 2 weeks later, after everyone's saying, like on Twitter, after pundits and game journalists are saying like, don't sell your development team to EA, you're just going to get used and thrown away years later. Then just shortly after, it's like Respawn has been bought. They want to do more Titanfall games, and everyone's just sort of scratching their heads and in shock, thinking like, well, this is history that's going to repeat itself. But we don't know. I mean, EA is known for acquiring and closing studios, trying to stay sort of neutral as well. I don't really have any care for EA games in general. I've said before that I'm not into sports games. I'm not into racing games. Certainly not like FIFA. The whole EA Sports thing, there's nothing there for me. I don't play Battlefield. I certainly don't play Battlefront. I'm no interest in that. So there's really practically nothing for me to be interested in that EA offers. None of their franchises really interest me at all, other than Titanfall. Titanfall 2 was probably the last big EA game I played and enjoyed. I don't know how they're going to go forward with Titanfall 3, because if you look at Star Wars Battlefront 2, all this negative chatter about loot boxes and microtransactions. I mean, what's going to happen with the news of like them basically paying to have an advantage over people in Star Wars Battlefront's multiplayer? How is this going to shape their games going forward? Like Titanfall, which is started off as multiplayer, it has a campaign, but still they're going to look at expanding the multiplayer and try and make it a platform as a game as a service, and just try and implement these loot boxes and microtransactions into everything going forward.
Right, exactly. And that's what I think they're trying to do, is that they're trying to they saw its success because they originally started it in their sports games, and I'm like you, Dazil. I hate sports games. I don't play Madden. I don't play the soccer. I don't play racing. I don't play any of that garbage. Well, and I don't mean to call it garbage because if you guys enjoy playing it, more on you. But it's just I'm not a fan of the service. But they started putting in like, okay, spend an extra $5 and we'll give you the special player that will boost up your team and things like that. And they started slowly moving it to their other games. And of course, people ate it up. They started dropping the money on, I want a golden rifle or I want a specific camo set or things like that. And it was very, very profitable. So EA, in my belief, I mean, we'll see over time what happens, but in my belief, that's how they see as the future of gaming is microtransactions. Is you know what, we can't rely on just selling the game at $60 or $89 with the season pass and so on and so forth. We have to be able to draw more money from those games. And I think what they're going to start focusing on is multiplayer with as many microtransactions as possible.
It's not like single player is going away though. There will always be single player games because you.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Games smaller studios that don't have the money or the infrastructure to have these big grand online multiplayer services. So it's not like a few weeks ago people were losing their minds when Visceral was closed, and it's like, this is the death of single player games. No, there's always going to be single player games. I mean, just look at the last couple of weeks in terms of games released. Look at what 2 Fridays ago we had huge release of Mario Odyssey, single player game, massive successful critically. People are loving it. We had Wolfenstein 2. Machine Games said, we're not interested in doing multiplayer. We're here for single player. And Assassin's Creed Origins, again, big single player game. Don't know the ins and outs about network connection or whatnot, but it's mainly a single player experience. So there will always be single player out there, but these companies are looking to make multiplayer and games as a service their main income.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. I mean, we won't see single player die out. We won't ever see it die out. But it's.
No, you were gonna say?
No, go ahead, man. You're fine.
Okay, so personally, I like and I don't like EA. I like its intellectual properties. I personally am a big fan of some of the games that came out of EA. Personally, I like the Battlefield Bad Company games, and I actually did like for some reason like a guilty pleasure the Dante's Inferno game, and I gotta say, this acquisition makes me worried because both of these, the publisher and the studio, both have different ideologies. I don't know if you guys noticed that in Titanfall 2, there's a various lack of, games with microtransactions. And, seeing as they are season pass free, as that's their motto, imagine EA getting their grummy hands on it. I'm just going to say, I personally do not like the decision they decided to do with trying to acquire Respawn Entertainment. But I gotta say, after Visceral getting shut down and many other game studios like Criterion, Pandemic, and so on and so forth, there's an Immigrant album you can search out there. You can see every single studio that got shut down by EA, and it's depressing, really. All those talents just going away. But again, single player isn't dead, and I'll tell you why. Because we're segueing now. Recently, there has been a shutdown on several online servers on PS3 games. Most importantly, on Ubisoft games. I don't know if you guys heard, but there's some games on the PlayStation 3 that decided to shut down recently, and I want to emphasize on two. There's the Sean White skateboarding on the PlayStation 3 and Ruse on the PlayStation 3. I don't know if you guys played it, but I want to hear your thoughts on this story.
Well, if they're last generation versions of games, it's inevitable, is it not, that servers get shut down? I mean, if they're not bringing in the numbers they used to anymore. The upkeep of servers is expensive, especially for well, just for video games. I mean, the upkeep of servers just in general, no matter what you do, it can be pricey. I'm talking about just generally across the board, whatever you do. You buy storage on your iPhone. What we upload this very podcast to, it costs money. But for a video game to host online, I can't even pretend to imagine what it must cost. So when games die out, they have to be shut down, and that sucks for trophy hunters. That sucks especially for games that are mainly online as well. That's basically the game completely erased. Let's say, for example, in a few years' time from now, when they eventually and inevitably shutter the very first Destiny game, because it's going to happen, it's not going to stay around forever. That game is no longer playable anymore. You'll have a disc that does nothing. But in terms of preserving video games, it sucks. But I don't know what the answer is to that. They're not going to keep servers on forever if no one's really playing. They're going to want people to move forward to their latest game that they spent millions developing and millions on upkeep of servers. So it happens. That's basically all I can really say about the topic. I mean, people do bring on the PC as a platform. People do bring their own servers online. They play P2P as well. They host games, but on consoles, once servers are gone, it's gone. Really, that's the limitation of consoles, unfortunately.
What about you, Punish? Any thoughts?
No, I mean, here's the thing: is that servers shut down. It happens. The game isn't. There's nobody online. It isn't making any money, and it allows developers and game companies to make room for the bigger games that, like Daziel said, they've spent millions and millions of dollars on. Why are they going to throw this cash at one side that's not making any money, where they could put it towards either developing a new game or freeing up server space for games like Destiny or Call of Duty World War II and things like that?
Personally, I feel like this story is more on the preservation side of the spectrum because I don't know about you, but I tend to play more on the last generation consoles, not only because it's cheaper, but I get to experience some games at a very more critical way. Um, Thinking about the preservation of video games for a second, servers shutting down isn't a big problem in older generation games because, as someone other mentioned here on the channel, not all the games that are going to be shutting down don't have any online trophies, and it's mostly like leaderboards and stuff. But I know that aspect is gone, but think of it in a more wider aspect. You hear titles like, single multiplayer games are going to be the next big thing, that single player games aren't going to be as profitable, and I feel like it's more of a short-term solution to a with a big problem that's gonna happen in long term. Because imagine playing Star Wars Battlefront and having those servers shut down for a multiplayer game.
Yeah, but
I can't play
the thing
that
with
game.
those games going forward, though, as we discussed a little while ago, if the game industry, or at least some of the big publishers, EA, Activision, and whatnot, are going to be moving forward and presenting games as services, where they're going to make the bulk of their, not only just their money back, but then some, all the profit from online, from cosmetics, pay to win, also just microtransactions, this whole loot box thing, the popularity of unboxing loot in front of your friends, which I can't get my head around, but I digress.
Exactly.
These servers are going to be maintained for a long, long time. If it's profitable, they will keep them alive. If they're going to be making tons, because it's broken down, isn't it? You've got the type of people who will drop 99 cents, 99p's here and there, not really drop in the ocean for someone like EA, just for example. But they have what they describe in their speak as whales, people who spend tons of money, like thousands. As much as I can't comprehend that, it's true. you get people who drop insane amounts of money. It's like people who gamble, really. Not saying that this is gambling, but I'm just likening it to gambling, where people drop crazy amounts of money into things, that they are into, and you get these whales, as they're described as it within the industry, who sustain the games as a service, the freemium, the cosmetics, the microtransactions, because they drop so much money in it. There was a story recently, a developer from BioWare. I can barely remember the ins and outs, but he said something along the lines of like one player spent like tens of thousands or something, like something crazy amount of money on the multiplayer for Mass Effect or something along those lines. So just one person spending that amount of money is a sustainable business model for them. So just going back to what we were talking about, the servers are going to stay online as long as they keep making money for the publisher. So games that have just scoreboards or high scores, they will be shut down in no time in favor of servers and services that are going to keep bringing in all the green.
That's gonna be very interesting when people want to go back and replay those types of games in the near future. But I digress. Let's see the next story we have on top. We already talked about a bit of Telltale Games. We talked about the Guardians of the Galaxy from the Zeal that he played. But this is interesting as we think of Telltale Games as having very exciting release dates, and this is actually pretty interesting from this story alone. Telltale Games decided to lay off 25% of the staff as a company restructuring. So we don't know what that means as of now, but looking at it, it's like weird coming from this developer. I mean, this studio that provides us a lot of games and episodes that we can just explore. And with the hype of the new season for Wolf Among Us and the collection for the Walking Dead for the coming from the PS4, um, it's kind of weird seeing how this company is gonna lay off a lot of people, especially as I seen. I think it's some writers are gonna leave, and they're gonna lay off so many people. I want to know what you guys think.
Well, from what I know, and I have to put it out there, I really don't know that much about game developing. But from what I've picked up from over the years of following gaming community on Twitter, developers being laid off, so to speak, is not unusual within the gaming industry. When a project is done, generally developers are let go and then they go and join another studio and move around. Only big developers such as Rockstar and Naughty Dog, for example, keep the sort of same team for years and years and years. Only when they're like really big successful studios, or even like the big first party studios, generally keep the same team on and still take on more or whatnot. But the smaller studios, I think developers tend to move around because we always see when games or the existence of games leak online, a lot of the time it's from people's CVs, from developers' CVs, from like previous games they've worked on when they've moved around through studios and games they've worked on that haven't been announced yet. So that aside, Telltale Games restructuring, I'm not sure. We don't really know much about it, as you said, but they've been putting out a lot of content. They've been really revving up the amount of episodes and games and series that have been putting out recently. You'd think that they were on a roll, but maybe not. It's not all as good as it seems. Maybe oversaturation of a Telltale Game series, because years ago it used to be one or two series every couple of years, but now they just seem to be overlapping all of their series. You've got, I think, Batman is currently running, Guardians just finished. You've got Wolf Among Us coming. They've got another Walking Dead coming as well, which they say is the final one. They just seem to have a lot of things going at the moment, and maybe it's not doing as well as they used to because they've sort of oversaturated their own product, perhaps. This is just me theorizing, by the way. I have nothing to base this on.
No, I think a couple months ago, if I remember correctly, Telltale, when they were making their announcements about all the new games that were coming out within the next fiscal year, was that they're going to start being very, very selective of the series that they choose. Like some of them were successful, some of them not as successful as they had hoped to be. So they're going to start being very, very, I guess, particular is the best way to put it. Is they're going to be very selective of the games that they're going to actually start putting out now, not just okay, let's find that. Oh, that franchise is doing well. Let's put out a Telltale game about that. Let's do that franchise, so on and so forth. I think they're going to start really tightening down the hatches on what they want to release and what they don't. And this, I mean, this news really didn't come as a surprise to me because after they had said that, it's like, okay, they might actually tone down a little bit too. They might have to close a couple of their studios. They might have to lay off some of their staff, so on and so forth.
Maybe they took on, again, just a theory, nothing to base this on. Maybe they took on a load of staff to ramp up on projects, such as maybe they needed a lot to get Guardians out really quickly, so it landed within the same window as the movie did. So maybe they took on loads of extra people to kind of push it along. And now that Guardians is done and it's out and the movie's out, and I think the movie's even out on Blu-ray and home release now, maybe, like I said, when projects are over, a lot of developers and teams get cut loose. I mean, we've had a lot of closures in the last year. There's been tons of closures. It's just, I don't really know where the industry is going. I've just seen loads of articles about questions about the sustainability of the industry as a whole, and like we were saying, moving forward with games as services and microtransactions seems to be the path where it's going, at least for AAA. But I don't know. I wouldn't class Telltale as AAA games, to be honest.
It distracts itself from being emphasized on the most popular things and forgets about what they actually were meant to do, which is emphasizing other intellectual properties, smaller intellectual properties, and rising them up. You can see that with Sam & Max. That's a cult classic that was turned a franchise hit back in 2006, 2007 when it got released on the PlayStation Network. And those games are amazing, dated but amazing. And then you see another game such as now Telltale's Batman, Telltale's Minecraft, which is still running, by the way. And then you have something like Wolf Among Us, which I think it's the purest form that has this whole generation. And that's why I'm worried about the story most of the time.
Okay. Moving on then. So have we got any more news? Or
One more. It's just a short one. It's a place. So PlayStation has noticed that its customers have been, ravaged by the natural disasters in the recent months, and so the Sony decided to extend the PlayStation Plus subscribers to those who were affected for free. Um, Supposedly, right now we only have confirmed Texas and Florida being on those places of being on natural disasters. We haven't heard from anyone from Mexico or from Puerto Rico, and it's mostly a small token of consideration for these uh, natural disasters that have kept people away. I personally almost missed the October lineup for PlayStation Plus, so I can't imagine those other people being on that same situation.
That certainly is a nice gesture. This is the first I've actually heard of it. I didn't notice this myself in the stories, but yeah, that's a pretty nice thing to do.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
For sure. Yeah, it's always nice when sort of big corporations, especially like the gaming within the gaming industry, always do these nice sort of gestures towards things, and I don't know, just like community things as well in certain countries. Like for example, here in I can't speak about in the US because I don't really follow the US PlayStation account. But at least during UK, during like a London Gay Pride, they always do a lot of sort of like coverage of that. I think they have a float that goes through the parade, and even a few years ago, I think they were giving away or did a competition for a one of a kind. They called it the Gay Station. It was a PS4 that was rainbow coloured, like the LGBT flag, which was really nice as well. So it's always nice when companies do like little gestures and stuff like that. It's a good way to keep in touch with their customers. I understand they're
Yeah.
all about making money at the end of the day, but it kind of puts a slightly more human face on a big multi-billion corporation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that pretty much covers the news then, I'd say. Shall we
Yep.
move on to our tricky trophy section?
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, for those who are not in the know, I don't see why you wouldn't be in the know because we do this every single week. But Tricky Trophies is a segment where we look back through all of our personal trophy collections from over the years, and we pick out one of the most annoying, rage-inducing, frustrating, or even just boring trophy, um, and we talk about it. We have our personal anecdotes, and we discuss and we share. We share in our pain, and we just talk about how much trophies, as much as we love them here on the Trophy Trust podcast, they can also really piss us off as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start off this section with the game I've picked for my trophy, Tricky Trophy, is God of War. The first God of War HD collection. Speaking about PS3 HD collections on this episode. The first game. Speaking of trophies that really, really pissed me off, this was probably the maddest I've ever been at a game in recent memories. This was years ago, by the way. This was back in 2010, so good few years ago now. But
Okay.
oof, okay, prepare to. Nope, sorry, wrong one. My mistake. I'll take the physical challenge. Complete the challenge of the gods. Now, if you're not familiar with God of War games, when you complete the main story, you unlock challenge rooms, which are basically a series of small combat arenas where you have either a time limit, a score limit. There's one in God of War 2 where you can't take a single hit of damage or you die. Basically, just challenge modes. And in the first game, the challenge modes, they have to be completed in one sitting. It's like 5 or 7 different rooms because if you quit out, your progress is lost. You have to do it in one session. And I got through most of them pretty easy, but the final one is insane, and it drove me to madness. I think I must have spent 6 hours on this one room because I couldn't turn the system off or save because you lose all your progress up to that point. And I was absolutely losing my shit at this. I was like, white hot rage. Basically, you play as Kratos. You're on this little tiny platform, really round, really small floating platform that raises up. The idea is it's a floating platform. There's no other ground. You fall off it, you die. The platform raises up every time you kill an enemy. So an enemy jumps on the platform is no bigger than, let's say, basically the diameter of the platform is like twice of Kratos' height. So he basically just him in the middle. There's just enough room for two enemies to be around him. So enemies fall out of the sky and land on the platform, and you have to kill the enemies to make the platform raise up. Once it raises up enough, you can jump onto the next platform, and then the level ends, and you've done it. It's insanely hard, at least for me. As I said, I spent like 5 to 6 hours on it, just getting madder and madder and madder at it. So you get like the worst enemies in the game. I can't remember how you pronounce it, but it's like satyrs. They're like the half goat enemies.
Satyrs, yep.
They are the shittest enemy in the game because they grab you and throw you, and on a platform where it's barely even wider than the character you're playing as, it's just basically instant death. And eventually I got it, but I think I was even close to just angry tears, just because the game's old. The game's a HD remaster of an old PS2 game, and so you can imagine the controls are not great. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about it. It just really pushed me to my limit. I didn't even know if I was going to do it. It was one of those trophies where you think it's going to finally break you, and you're not going to be able to do it. But I pushed through, and the sheer relief I felt afterwards, was crazy. It wasn't even like satisfaction. It was just like relief. Relief that it was over. That I didn't have to like suffer anymore over this trophy. Still though, one of the worst.
I resent with you because I also did the Challenge of the Gods not too long ago, and I gotta say that last challenge, that is a pain, but there was a way to do it a bit easier, but I'm not sure if you read about it or anything about using there's an attack that allows you to I think it's like not grapple, but uh, fling your enemies onto the air. I think you can do it with the satyrs, and you can just juggle them and kill them by that means of necessary. I think it was like square X square or something like that. I'm
I
not
think
sure.
that's what I eventually figured out. I do remember sort of juggling them up into the air because they grab you and spin you and then throw you off the platform. And yeah, I think I eventually worked out the method. I didn't get all the way up to the top. I got just enough for a double jump to get to the exit. So yeah. But anyway, that was my tricky trophy. That's probably one of the hardest trophies I've ever done. And that was like 7 years ago. It's crazy how time flies. Punish, your tricky trophy for this week.
All right, my tricky trophy for this week is the one that I'm currently working on, and I really wanted to talk about this because it's been a massive pain in my ass. But it is the hardcore Rosette trophy for Persona 4 Golden. And so I am just going to give a little background on this for people who've never Persona games. Later on into the story, you get for your characters, and Rosette, you kill an enemy. Form you have to get her to say every single line. So right now, I am literally running through every single dungeon, every single area that I can fight in, and I'm purposely getting my characters killed, poisoned, inflicted with fear, despair, you name it, hoping to pop this trophy. And I actually have a list printed out of all her possible lines, and I've been highlighting the lines as I hear her say them. And it's a hit. And the problem too is that it's a hit or miss if she's going to say the line. So you could have your entire party wiped out, and she won't say a thing. And you're like, okay, well, I got to do that again. And there's particular enemies you have to fight a certain way to get her to say a certain line. So it's very, very frustrating, especially when I've been playing it for 5 to 6 hours straight, just for her to say one freaking thing and she never says it.
Oh man,
Oh,
I hate those
wow.
type of like trophies in games where sometimes it's like chance or random spawn or random generation of like an item, a character, a dialogue in your case. That reminds me of, just on a really quick tangent, like in Borderlands 2, where you a trophy for getting a certain enemy to spawn, like a really, really, really rare.
Donkey Mong, yep, yeah.
No, it was
Jimmy Jenkins.
Jimmy
Oh,
Jenkins.
That's it. The now, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
trying to get that little bastard Jimmy Jenkins to appear. That took me hours of reloading saves, hours, because like I read all the different methods, just keep playing the same mission over and over and over just for a chance. So that kind of stuff is absolute bullshit in video games, where it's just basically a chance, a number in the engine of it randomly generating, and you're just there for hours.
Exactly. And one thing that frustrates me most is that I love the Persona games, as I've mentioned, and it's just like, as we've talked about with Final Fantasy IX, that jump rope trophy was just bullshit. It makes me want to break the game. Like I love Final Fantasy IX, one of my favorite Final Fantasies, and they put out that stupid ass trophy. And the same thing with this trophy right here. It's like the developers must know it is so difficult to get this. They're just sitting there laughing at me.
I think we talked about this before we started, but thank God they reworked that trophy back in Persona 5, where it's a similar trophy, but it's actually much more interesting because it doesn't require you to listen all of them. It requires you to listen to most of them.
Yeah, with Persona 5, it was like we had talked about before, was I wasn't even going after the trophy. I was just in the mementos area, grinding my characters up and getting their levels up, and it just all of a sudden popped up for me. It was like, hey, I didn't even have to work on that one. That's nice.
Nice.
All right then. So, Vec, what's your tricky trophy for this week?
Okay, so I previously mentioned that I played GTA 5. This is one of these trophies that as the rarity doesn't tell at the say that, it's actually pretty easy to get if you know what you're doing. So this trophy is kind of context sensitive. I got this shortly after I got the power back on here in Puerto Rico, and but there wasn't enough internet around here, so I had to scrap to buy this. So the trophy in question is Kifloom, complete your path of enlightenment, or
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if anyone has played or platinumed GTA,
Me, I
there's
have.
there's a trophy and a site and a mission from Strangers and Freaks that only one character can play is Michael. But this time, it requires you to do a set load of tedious, as I might say, uh, tasks for each mission. So, um, the trophy itself, you can simply look at a list and just do them by your own and get an easy trophy. Yeah, that sounds like that sounds like an easy trophy. This is GTA we're talking about, and I didn't have internet at the time, so I had to do this like you're playing back before there were any guides on launch day.
This
So
particular trophy was it's the mission, if I remember correctly. It's kind of like a parody of Scientology, and for you
yes,
to join in the cult of Kiflom or whatever it is, some kind of alien
the
religious cult.
Epsilon program.
The Epsilon program. That's it. You have to do some menial, tedious, as you described, random mission tasks, and I'm going to let you explain it. But there was one where I basically just put an elastic rubber band on my controller and just left it.
Yeah, so the tedious part was actually near the beginning. So there's one part of the mission of the trophy that requires you to track down 5 cars, but these cars are you can either buy them off, that sounds easy, and give them to them. But I don't want to give them my money, so I'm just gonna steal the cars. So I'm driving around Los Santos, and trying to track down these 5 cars. Their spawn rates are really, really, really difficult to get because some of these are can only spawn once every like 3 days, and you don't actually know that unless you're looking at the guide. And sometimes you pick up the car, and sometimes days, but you don't know that.
That's
So
crazy that you did that
That's
without a guide, because I had to use a guide with screenshots in it to find those cars. But you doing it completely blind, to describe it like that, like internet without internet,
ah.
I couldn't even imagine doing that.
And then afterwards it got easier because of course there's like, oh, you have to detect the artifacts, and then you have to wear a robe for like 10 consecutive in-game days where you can
Yeah,
basically skip by just sleeping on the bed, and it
yeah, I think
for
I
like
did that too.
40 days straight, 40 hours straight at the 40 times straight. And then doing the airport and flying the plane, and then you get to this excruciating, and like Taz said, rubber banded. There's one that's called exercising the truth, which requires you to run 5 miles across the desert. Now, the game tells you what is the area you have to run in. The game doesn't tell you how which part of the desert you can run unless you walk out. And if you walk out, you have to walk all 5 miles again.
Yeah.
And
For me, I found the area that was a part of the active mission, and yeah, I put an elastic rubber band around my analog so that Michael walked basically in a circle, and I can't remember how long it took. It was maybe about an hour of him just walking around doing that kiflum, 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 just like for about an hour. I think I just turned my TV off and just went and had dinner and did something else, and every now and then I'd come upstairs and open statistics, and I think it would tell you roughly how many miles you've walked or run, or basically
no,
the
you get a
area.
pop up. You get a
Yeah,
pop up
yeah,
that says,
yeah. I just wait for the pop up to tell me how long I've got left. Well, how long I guess I've got left. It wasn't all that bad if you're rubber banding, but yeah, without a guide though, doing those cars, that is
yeah. And
crazy.
then, but at least the end result of that trophy was actually pretty satisfying. I did the most logical thing. I blew down the helicopter and just went around with the money. Easy peasy. That was the most satisfying conclusion I could have for a trophy. But seriously though, do it with a guide. Don't do what I did. It's
Absolutely.
regretful.
Okay. Well, that rounds up our tricky trophy section for this week. We've had some good ones there, some really interesting ones. Okay, so we're pretty much reaching the end of this episode. We're going to start our sort of rounding out and signing off. Is there anything else anyone wants to add? Punish, did you want to speak about trophy leaderboards?
Yes, I just wanted to give a shout out to community here on Discord. You guys are doing an amazing job with platinums. So far for November, we have 78 platinums attained, and we have Tara leading the charge right now, and we have Mako slowly closing the gap. So it should be an interesting race this month. So congrats to all you guys for getting those platinums up there. I'm very anxious to see how many we get at the end of November.
Yeah, well done, everyone. Just keep on getting those My Name is Mayo trophies.
The easy peasy trophies.
Yeah.
Come on, get those visual novels ready. Come on, get your easy peasy trophies ready. Come on, get your remasters around. Except God of War or God of War HD Collection and maybe Killzone. But go for it. Really.
Okay. Is there anything else, or should we wrap up?
I'm good to go, man.
Okay. All right then. Well, thank you for listening to this episode. Don't forget to follow us on our Trophy Trust Twitter at the Trophy Trust. Please follow us on our YouTube channel as well, the Trophy Trust. We're always happy to get feedback. Also, I've been forgetting to mention this. Support us on Patreon, please, because upkeep of the servers for this very podcast. Well, we're a non-profit podcast. We don't take any money for this. We do this just for fun, just for the passion, because we're gamers and we enjoy trophy hunting. But servers must be paid to host our episodes. We already have a few people donating to us just for as little as $1 a month, and it keeps the show going. So you'll be able to find details of our Patreon on our Twitter as well, and also on our YouTube in the descriptions under our videos. You'll be able to find a link if you wish to support us. If not, that's fine. Thank you for listening anyway. We really do appreciate your audience. Thank you to everyone here as in the live chat. Thank you if you're listening through iTunes. Please leave feedback on iTunes. Again, we really appreciate any feedback. And you can find us individually on Twitter. Vec, where can people find you?
Well, people can find me at DVectronic
Punish,
on Twitter.
People can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, they can find me at Staff Sergeant Punish at twitter.com.
You can also find me on Twitter at TheDazil. Again, thank you for listening and keep up the trophy hunting. Have a good evening, everyone.
Have a good one, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
And cut.
We're good.
Woo! That was great.
Nice. Just sending a thing to Claire.
Yeah, stop recording. We don't want. We don't want
know about the when you dropped out, but I'm sure he can tidy that up.
Yeah, that was a mini blooper. That was weird. Aw, thanks, Sarah. Thanks. We all appreciate feedback here.
Yep.
I gotta say, that was a nice podcast. That was a good episode.
Yeah. It was good. Had a good flow to it. And we were I think this is about an hour and 15 minutes, I think, if just